Now recognize Mr. Kols from Latvia to be.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Winkler, for, I would say, in large lines, well-balanced resolution, a draft of resolution. Just a few points I want to come back to. My dear colleague from U.S. Senate, Senator Wicker, what he raised. So we do talk about Ukraine, we talk about Middle East, but what we have to register here at the OSCE PA and actually reflect in our reports as well, that the Russia's war in Ukraine and the war in Middle East are not isolated conflicts. The perpetrators are actually creating strategic partnerships. That is Russia, Iran, vis-a-vis also the North Korea. And on top of that, we have the huge shadow of China as well, lurking over these conflicts. So of course, I very much welcome what is being reflected in the report, but I also would like to raise other proxies that are destabilizing the situation both in the Middle East but globally. For example, Houthis blocking the Red Sea, the freedom of navigation through the seas as well. That should be also reflected in our report as such. And when it comes to Africa, as you know, last year in Vancouver, we adopted the declaration in which we recognized Wagner Group as a terrorist entity, organization, that should be reflected as well in this report, because the main destabilizer in the African continent is Russia through its controlled Wagner Group. That is actually Russia's military entity. Last but not least, I also wanted to raise two more questions in relation. We reflect on the so-called elections in Russia. I actually invite to recognize Mr. Putin as illegitimate president of Russia, similarly as this House has done towards Lukashenko, the tyrant of Belarus. The same thing has been done at the Council of Europe Parliamentary Assembly, and they invite other institutions, democratic institutions, to follow their suit. So that will be also another recommendation. Since this is my last meeting at the PA, OSCE PA, I will be leaving for the European Parliament, and we all recall, Mr. Chair, as well, my first meeting here at OSCE PA in Vienna, 2023. I really just want to pay attention that there's a news coming from Russia that in June, the Federal Council, together with State Duma, they're drafting resolution and soon to be adopted in State Duma to suspend their participation at the OSCE PA. I think what we adopted yesterday, the resolution, the supplementary item on Ukraine, where we actually ask for OSCE PA find the mechanisms to suspend the countries that are in gross violation of our principles of this institution, we should include the paragraph that we welcome the decision or the initiative being put forward by the Federal Council and the State Duma of Russian Federation to suspend their participation in the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kols, and we wish you well in the European Parliament. You will be missed as a participant in this assembly. Mr. Sinekis is not here, and so